This is Atari Breakout. You know, that classic arcade game from the 1970s? It's a pretty simple game. Use this paddle to hit this ball to destroy these bricks. In this video, I brought this classic into the 21st century, adding new physics, new game modes, and most importantly, real-time online multiplayer. Let's get started. So, before we actually make anything, we have to figure out how we even make Breakout a multiplayer game in the first place. I don't mean just players taking turns. No, I mean 2 players, 2 paddles, battling it out to the death. Or at least something like that. Well, first my idea is we mirror the game so there are 2 sides. Then we have 2 options. We can either end the game whenever the ball gets past these bricks, kind of treating it like a goal, or we can end it when all the bricks on the side are gone. I had no idea which one would be best, so I just decided to make both. But before we can do that, we need to make a map. Now, Breakout was originally an arcade game, so if we're gonna make a new version, we need to stick with those original arcade vibes. I'm thinking dark background, make everything else really bright. Except this still looks kind of boring. Okay, here's an idea. Let's add some trees I built in 5 minutes. Why? I don't know, but it looks cool, so we're keeping it. Just please don't look at it from the side. No. Okay, let's just move on. So far, we've got a paddle, we've got a ball, but you wanna know what we don't have? Physics. Alright, first, let's add some physics to the ball. Simple, we'll just add some velocity and watch it go. Oh, right, we need a physics engine. A physics engine is basically a bunch of code that'll run all the complicated maths to figure out where the ball should bounce. And since this is so complicated, let's just look for someone else's code. Oh, there are so many choices. Which one do I pick? Okay, well, eventually I found this old physics engine called Box2DX. It has all the features I want, but its last, actual update was in 2009. It's fine. Let's just dust it off a little bit. Oh, it actually works. Cool. Alright, next we need our paddle to move. You see, in traditional Breakout, the paddle can only move left and right. But come on, it's 2021, why not use more computing power to make our game complicated? We're making this paddle move left and right, up and down, and we're even making it spin! Now, maybe I've been avoiding this for too long, but it's finally time to code networking. This is the part that actually makes the game multiplayer, so I suppose I should give you a quick rundown of how it works. I'm using something called an authoritative server, where a server does all of the physics stuff and just tells the players what is going on. Players can move because I send information about what direction they want to go to the server. This would all work fine, except for a little nuisance called ping. Essentially, it takes time for our messages back and forth to travel, and this creates a delay that causes a lot of problems for the game. Here, let me show you an example. Hey server, I'm moving to the right. Is that okay? What? I'm moving to the right. Okay. And this is then what happens to the game. Okay, yeah, we need something better. How about client-side prediction? It gets really technical here, but basically when we press a key, we just assume the server will hear us and move the paddle anyway. Then, though, we also have to predict where everything else, for example the ball, is gonna go. Again, technical, and it took a long time for me to actually get this to work, but we now have accurate, responsive physics over the internet. It feels so good. By the way, I should mention that this is an extremely simplified flowchart. If I were to show all of the actual server-client interactions here, it would probably look more like this. So with the networking all done and working, it is finally time to make our first game mode. So let's start by making one I call Breakthrough. It's like the original Breakout, but you win by getting the ball into the other team's goal, which is guarded by several rows of bricks. The first step was to enable the ball to actually break these bricks, and that was actually all there was to it. So let's see how it turned out. Okay, well, I'd say things are going pretty well. However, after a bit more testing, I have come to the realization that this map is just too big. There's just too much space. So I decided to return to the simpler rectangle shape that the original Breakout had. At least for now. Oh, and while I was at it, I also added some new effects, such as a fancy brick break explosion. And a goal explosion, which you can see here as I own goal. Just like I always do. Breakthrough done! Now, the next game mode I wanted to create was what I call Break All, which is where you win by breaking all of the other team's bricks. This game mode literally uses the same map as Breakthrough, so that part wasn't too bad. No. The part that was hard here was that I only coded my server to handle one type of minigame, so I had a decent amount of work ahead of me. Alright, I want to take a brief moment to talk about UI/user interface/ the stuff that helps you see what is going on in the game. For example, here's a bar I made on the top of the screen that tells you the name of the minigame and how to play. Oh, and how about below that, the teams and points? That'll be pretty important for Break All. Hey, we also need a fancy countdown to signal the beginning of the game. Lastly, we need a screen that says who won. I think that's pretty important. And now for my last minigame, Break In. Okay, well, maybe not that one. Let's think of something else. Listen, so far we've accomplished so many cool things. We've got cool maps, cool minigames, paddle physics, ball physics, and even fitting decorations. With all this in place, there are limitless possibilities of what I could make next, so I decided to make a very different kind of minigame. Basketball. After a little bit, I created these, interesting basketball nets. They're very glowy, just like everything else in the game. The one big difference with basketball is that the ball's gotta have gravity, and adding gravity led me down a very fun rabbit hole. You see, before the ball always moved at a constant speed. You could hit it as hard as you want, and it would just snail over to the goal. Here, I allowed the ball to go at any speed when it hits your paddle. So much more satisfying. Anyway, back to basketball. Guys, I have good news. My countless hours spent coding network stuff have finally paid off, and it only took like 2 hours to get this working. Ironically, this is my favorite game mode so far, even though, you know, the whole point of this project was to make Breakout. This is Atari Breakout, the game that inspired me to push myself to learn and create. My game began as a simple project idea so I could teach myself how to make a multiplayer game. However, of course, just like with all of my game ideas, this one blew up into a full-out game. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I had so much fun creating this game, and I hope you had so much fun watching my journey to make Breakout multiplayer. And I hope you like my trees.